Hey folks, Will here from tyGraph. Today we're going to take a closer look at Power BI filtering concepts, but from the perspective of tyGraph Online. So let's kick things off today by covering off the different types of filters that are generally available to you in a typical tyGraph Online report. The first one is cross-filtering. This is simply when you select a data point and it filters the visuals around it. And you can do that on any visual in any report that we publish. Next is slicers, which we usually include on the left-hand side of the canvas. And these are usually really standard things that we would expect you as the user to filter. And so rather than make you look for them somewhere else, we've included them on the left-hand side there. Next is drill through. You won't see drill through in the tyGraph for Yammer report that I'll demo today. However, in our tyGraph for SharePoint report, you can see that we have some drill through filters that are available. I'll dedicate a separate video to that you can check out if you're interested in that feature. But for today, I'm interested in the filter pane, which is on the extreme right-hand side of the report area. And the reason that I like this is because it really gives us all of the real granularity that you're looking for within a tyGraph report that you can make use of. And there's a whole bunch of attributes that either myself or someone in your admin team has prepared inside there for you. And this will allow you to answer some of the tougher questions. For example, looking for groups of a certain name or keywords that are contained within messages, or even filtering between a very specific date range. We could do crazy stuff, let's say August 28th to the 31st, and any time frame that you're interested in. Now, to make use of these filters, we need to first understand that there are actually three levels that are packed in here. There's visual level filters, page level, and report level filters. Now, though you can't control where these are placed and what ones are in each category, you do need to understand how they work because they interact with each other, and in some companies they even have as many as 3 applied simultaneously. Now, visual filters apply only to a visual, but they're extra tricky because you can't actually see them unless you select the visual. So if we click this here, we can see that a menu now pops up on the right-hand side. And this way Power BI knows that I'm saying I only want to apply the filter from this area to this visual that I've selected. So for example, if we go to the group activity page, we can select the thread impact visual, and inside there we'll now see all of the elements that make up that visual in the visual level filter. And so from here we can do some really neat things like selecting, for example, responses, and we can make conditions like only show me the top ranking threads by their impact, but I only care about ones that, for example, have more than 70 responses. So if I enter that in and hit apply filter, now we're only seeing those most impactful threads that have more than 70 responses. Page level filters apply only to a page. They're more simple in the sense that you'll always be able to see them in the filter area to the right. And these are useful if your company has specific page requirement. I might talk about this in a minute. Essentially, sometimes we like to, if you look at the recent activity page, for example, we like that to show recent activity, and sometimes people will save using the period filter on the left and instead apply a filter just to that page, and they'll do it right here in that page level filter. Finally, report level filters apply across the report in every page, every visual that we see. And I like this a lot, especially for tyGraph Online users, because it's the most simple. You can't actually save any of the filters, which we'll talk about in a minute. And it just means that you have a clean slate. You know that what you've applied in this session is what you've applied, and you don't have to compare against different pages. Next, I want to talk about compounding filters. This is when we have 2 or more filters that are mutually exclusive applied at the same time, and it causes little or no data to appear. So for example, if I apply a sweet 30-day filter to this one page, and then if I go and apply a report level filter to February of 2016, then this page is going to show us nothing because it's impossible for a data point to be both in the last 30 days and in February of 2016. And sometimes this doesn't even have to be applied by you for this to happen. As you can see in this example, we had the 30-day filter applied by default to this one report page. So if we didn't know that, or if we didn't clear it before we go and do filtering, then it could cause us some trouble. If you ever reach a point where a visual shows you nothing or less than you expect, there are a couple indicators that you can use to see what's actually going on. So at glance, we always provide a report period at the top of our reports, and this shows you the time frame for the report page. But also, each visual has its own filter icon, and we can see this on the visual header. If we just hover over it, you'll see that we can look at this and see all the filters that are applied to that visual. Now that we have a better idea of what's going on with these crazy filters in the right-hand side, we should talk about the different types. There's actually 4. There's basic, relative, top number, and advanced. Now, basic filtering is just a fast toggle. I find it's handy for quickly either hitting a bunch of items in a list. So in one example here, we can search for a particular user, we can select them, and we can actually erase the search item and search for another user and continue down the list until we've selected the different users that we would like to analyze. Another example for basic filtering is with the month year short attribute. If we come in here, I often like to come and select maybe a couple months. It's just often fast to come in here and tick a couple of those boxes, hit apply on that filter, and we can see that that has applied across, in this case, the entire report that we're looking at. Relative is only available for the date frame. Now, usually I just use the one in the canvas, but if you don't have that one out there, you can always go to the date attribute, switch to relative filtering, and you can see here that we can show us X number of days that we would like to analyze. So for the example of this demo data set, I'll show us maybe the last 160 days and hit apply. And now we can see that it has filtered to the last 160 days worth of data. Don't panic. As you can see, I've only got the data up to, I think, the 13th of April for this example. So next, I'd like to talk about the top number filter. This one's quite rare. It's usually only used in reports probably by your admin, and they want to really limit a visual to only show a certain number of data points. In this case, it's usually to save space if we don't want the data bars to be all squished together. So you can see I've applied a visual level filter to top sharers, and I've limited it to only show us the top 10 sharers in this list. And so in this example, I can select this, and now I can expand this from maybe the top 10 to the top 15 people, or even reduce it. Say I only care about the top 5, I can change that and hit apply. If I hate filters like this, don't forget that you can always hit the eraser at the top right-hand corner of any of these filters, and it will remove that filter from being applied at all. Finally, advanced filtering is the most advanced and probably fancy type of filtering, in my opinion, in Power BI. And you can use this to search for words or strings, text fields, ranges of numbers, and even specific dates. So in one example, if I want to go to all groups that contain a certain keyword in their name, I can go to the group name item here, and I can search for that and show me all groups that contain a certain item in their title. Alternatively, we could go over to the group activity page, and again, if we select the thread impact visual, you can see here we could say I only care about the most impactful threads that contain a certain word within that first 125 characters that we display in tyGraph. So you could use the same advanced filtering for that purpose. We can also go to the date attribute, and if we select advanced filtering here, you'll see that we're provided with showing items that have a value, and we can say is typically I'll do is on or after, and I can select a date, and then you can get even more specific and then make sure that this and condition is applied, and we'll say on or before our end date, and then hit apply. And so there you can see we've applied a very specific time frame for our report. The last thing you need to know is that tyGraph Online starts a fresh session each time we open the web page. And we think that this is a great feature because if you ever accidentally X out or close some of the filters that you've applied and you're scared that you can't get those back, all you simply need to do is go to the top of the web page and just refresh the entire thing, and you'll see that those filters and everything have returned to default. The same thing goes that if you've applied a filter and you can't find it, or if you're getting confused or frustrated, feel free to hit the refresh button at the top of the page and it'll all just go back to default. So the downside of this is that any of those crazy and awesome filters that you have applied will get lost as soon as we refresh this web page, and it's going to set it to default. And so we recommend that you only invest the time necessary to be able to conduct the analysis or export that you're doing for this session. So that sums up all of the things that I'd like to talk about when it comes to Power BI filtering inside of tyGraph Online. If you have any questions about what you saw today, feel free to reach out to us in the support email. I've included that in the description below. All companies who have a report in tyGraph Online should have an admin. And so if you know who they are, please feel free to add them to that email in the CC line, and we'll keep them in the loop as well. If you found today's video helpful, feel free to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so that you can stay up to date on all of our latest guide videos. Thanks so much.